Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Mik'd Up. Today is Wednesday, June 4th. We appreciate you sticking it out with the rain delay. Got a little bit of a delay, but we're here. Tarp came off the field. Team's ready to play. Sunny skies outside. Part of the game. We're used to that here in Baton Rouge. A lot of conversation to be had today. Obviously, we're going to continue to talk about LSU's regional victory. Start talking about the upcoming Super Regional that is here this weekend. LSU's got the Saturday, Sunday, Monday, if necessary, game on Monday. They've got the Saturday, Sunday, Monday series, which is great for the boys. Obviously, this past weekend was a battle, a lot bigger of a battle than anybody had anticipated. Cade Anderson threw on Saturday instead of Friday. Now he's going to be on full rest for a Saturday, another Saturday start. Anthony Ianson is going to have enough rest to go on Sunday if that is what they decide to do. He threw on Monday. I'm not considering that a start or really it's an appearance, but he threw less than 20 pitches. It was a bullpen day. He will be good to go on Sunday, and that'll give, obviously, Casey Evans some extra rest after throwing 109 pitches, I believe, in a heroic effort by him. But a lot of conversation to be had. We have Jay Johnson coming on the show, joining the show at 6:30. Obviously, Jay Mitch is our co-host. He will be on the show. He's out in Houston working on. We're getting through the technical difficulties that we had. He'll be on here shortly. But there's a lot of storylines to be had. Obviously,
no technical difficulties. Hand up. Apologies.
Oh,
yeah.
You're gonna admit,
of course,
you're gonna admit
absolutely. You know me. I'm
okay.
a team guy.
I wasn't gonna throw you under the bus.
No, throw me. It's not under the bus. I built the bus. I didn't start the bus. I ran under the bus.
Okay.
Glad we're here though.
We made it.
This is what I do for you. This is what I do for Jay. 5 minutes took me to get here.
Listen to me. I have never seen somebody get from your house to here in less than 10 minutes. You did that. I appreciate it.
Red lights are optional.
I'm really happy you didn't get a ticket. That would have been even more of a disaster.
I think could come in here at any time.
That would be more of a disaster.
No.
Glad it did not happen. Glad you're here. Glad we get to have
Jay Mitch is here.
The interview. Glad Jay Mitch is in here. It's Ask Mikey and Mitch Day. So we also have that. We can start the questions early on before Jay or after Jay. It'll be end around like 7:20-ish.
But remember, it is Ask Mikey and Mitch, not Ask Coach Jay Johnson.
Right. So you can ask the Jay Johnson questions, but they're going to come to us.
Right.
So just to give you a heads up, Jay, welcome.
This is him.
This
is him.
Wait, mute. You're
muted.
I think you're muted. No, he's not muted. Maybe it's us. Still working out the kinks. Hold on. You look good, though, Jay. You look great. You look golden. That sound made a little different sound. A lot of different regionals. Listen. Whoa, what is that on the screen? You got a window on the screen. Not the Zoom.
You should be up.
Well,
do anything differently?
You have a like a window screen on the middle of the screen. Okay. I know you probably, sometimes you can't see it over there.
I can't.
Okay.
I don't know why he can't. Why can't I hear you? Can you hear us?
All right. Well, LSU is going to host a Super Regional this weekend. We're going to get to all the other stuff. LSU, West Virginia is coming in. Obviously, they were not the host seed of the Clemson Regional, but they swept through that regional in an impressive fashion. Don't overlook them. Obviously, this past weekend in the regional at home against Little Rock should tell you all you need to know about not overlooking an opponent. Little Rock had a losing record. Obviously, played extremely well against us and against the rest of the field. Made it to the championship game. West Virginia obviously better than Little Rock. So don't underestimate the Mountaineers as they come to Baton Rouge. Other regionals of note: Miami is at Louisville. Miami comes out of that regional. Louisville comes out of their regional. Neither one of them were host regionals. FSU at Oregon State. That's wild. That's a long travel. That's a crazy matched up super regional. Florida State's got to go all the way across country to Oregon State. Arizona is going all the way across country to North Carolina. Coastal Carolina is going to be at Auburn. UTSA, who's hot, swing it, going to UCLA. Murray State, 4 seed, got out of the Ole Miss regional, is going to Duke, that got out of their regional. And Tennessee is at Arkansas because, of course, there had to be a matchup of 2 SEC teams. SEC had 14 teams in the regionals. 14 teams in regionals. Only 4 of them have advanced to the super regionals. Not a great percentage, which is raising the questions around the country. Oh, do we or is the SEC overrated? All this stuff, blah, 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 blah. We're not going to get into that because I don't think that is the case. Baseball happens sometimes, and that is just the way the cookie crumbles. And, you're going to have multiple teams in Omaha from the SEC. ACC's got 5 teams in the regional. SEC's got 4. Super regional. SEC team's got 4. And then you round it out with the other conferences, which I don't know the amounts of those conferences. Lloyd, I know you're working on it. Nobody can see me since I sat down because of the window on the screen. I don't know how to get that off. Oh, there's the mouse. This is going to be a game. Like when you're watching the – oh, I can hear Jared. Okay, so let's get the window off now, and then we'll be good to go. There you are, Jay. We can hear you. It's loud and clear. Here, why don't you throw me the mouse and let me do it?
I don't think that's on the real screen, is it? I think that's just on your screen.
Oh, is it not on the real screen?
Yeah, that's just for you. Now you're over here. You go this way. But that's just your preview screen, like from my computer over to you, so it's not actually on the TV.
Oh,
that's not going out on the broadcast.
Well, it's good to know, but I would like to see myself.
Yeah, for sure. Would you get it?
It's not going there. I don't know where the mouse is.
Just give it back to me. I'll figure it out. Good job, Jared.
Jared, how you doing, dude?
Yo, we live in clubs. We good, man. How y'all doing? We get Lloyd, get this thing going?
We got this day. Lloyd admitted to his mistake. I was trying to. You're almost there. You're there. You're left. Oh, you got it.
Gone?
It's gone. Lloyd admitted to his mistake. I was trying to cover for him as far as the technical difficulties go. But he came out and admitted to him. He didn't explain why he was late, but
people have seen plenty of me. So I think they understand in a holistic way of.
So we haven't had a show. Have we had a show since the
announcement?
No, not since the regional, right? Because the regional was Monday. We had the show before the regional.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we haven't even gotten to recap the show. The regional championship. Okay. Wow.
Because we did show on Monday.
Yeah, but before the regional started.
No, that was their last game.
That's what before that game is what I'm talking about.
Before they advanced to the Supers.
Before they advanced to the Supers. Jared, talk to me about obviously Jay's coming on the show in a little bit, but the Sunday game or the Monday game against Little Rock. And I've said this a few times today to other people. And Cason Evans has been this is his best performance of his career. And I think what makes it even more impressive is that when he came in, the moment he came in the game, he is the last guy that has the trust of the staff and of the players to be able to go the length that he went, right? Like all the other guys haven't done that this year. They've maybe go an inning, maybe 2 max. And he was the last guy that has not thrown, that has the ability to go and shut down a team and go 6 innings. And it was a have-to-have-it type of situation. And he delivered in a way that I don't think anybody could have imagined. In that situation, that moment as a freshman, talk about how insanely impressive that was.
Yeah, man, you're sitting there with your backs against the wall, and it's either win or go home. Now, obviously, being at home and having the crowd behind you, that's why you play the season you do, to give you the opportunity to play these games in front of your crowd. But, yeah, nonetheless, man, you come into that situation, and I think, what was it, 5-1 or 4-1 at the time when he comes in the game?
It's 5-1.
To hold that ball club at bay And I don't care what their numbers look like on the year, man. Like, they're at that point for a reason, right? Like, they had to go win some kind of ball games to be able to get to that point, and they've done that. So they're there, and to hold that team at bay, to give your team some kind of momentum, to throw up some zeros for guys to start feeling like we're still in this thing, to do that, and then the offense to come around, and then you still to throw up zeros after and not let it go, man. Like that shit was impressive, man. And that, it kind of shows his competitiveness, it shows his poise, it shows his understanding of what the situation is, but also like the youth in him too helps in terms of just being like, man, the hell with it, man. What I'm gonna just go throw. I don't really, I'm gonna go pitch and let's just see what happens on the other side of it. And it was really cool to see, man.
Yeah, no, it was. It was impressive. And look, you go back to the Sunday game that they lost, right? And there was the final score, obviously, not good. LSU did not play great. Scored 3 in the first. Had a bad inning. I think they were down 6-3 after that. Cooper Williams comes in, kind of rights the ship, right? And you get to the last inning, and then the debacle happens where you can't throw strikes, and they tackle on a whole bunch of runs. I say that because you had opportunities in the second, third, and fourth innings to drive guys in, right? One hit, and those 3 at-bats, you drive some guys in, and the game's totally different. You may be using Case and Evans at the back end of that game to close out a win and not get to Monday, right? So then you go to Monday, you bring Case and Evans in, and you get he throws up some zeros, and then you get the opportunity where you feel like the momentum is building, and you get the bases loaded, and Fry comes through with a bases clearing double, and it was almost like an exhale. Here we go. Now we go. And a combination of those two was huge, and that was what you weren't getting the night before. You had the opportunities early on, and you do that. You don't get to that last inning where you walk 5 guys and you give up 6 runs or whatever that was, and it doesn't look as embarrassing. You may end up winning that game, but it was some special performances. Luis Hernandez, I tweeted about that earlier. 4-game catching,
banger of a tweet.
Catching 4 games in a row is unbelievably impressive. He was beat up, he was tired, he had no legs, and then he puts out his best offensive performance of the year with the 2 homers. There was a lot of guys that stepped up in big ways, and obviously Bear Jones came out of hibernation with a big dagger homer, and and they move on. That's what good teams do. They find a way to win. I don't care who was against the postseason. You have teams that are playing for, they have nothing to lose, and Little Rock was one of them, and LSU was able to come through it. So it was a huge weekend. It was a huge game. A lot of guys stepped up when they needed to, and advanced. Jared, anything else around the other regionals before Jay gets on here that was interesting to you as we move on to the Supers?
That Ole Miss regional turned out to be exactly what I thought it was going to be. Good God.
Murray State swings.
Murray State gave everybody hell in that one. And I think probably the biggest surprise was the Vanderbilt regional, right?
Yeah.
Like, nobody saw that. They couldn't even put up runs, and they kind of had been steamrolling the back end of their schedule a little bit to where you were like, I see our offense coming around. They got some guys that's emerging in the middle of the lineup. Like, they might be scary because they've always been a good team, like a good pitching ball club. Like this, that's kind of the staple with their program there. They do that, right? And so you saw like their offense kind of emerging and coming on, and they were starting to create some magic at home too, right? Like they had, I think, 3 straight walk-offs at home before they went to Hoover, and then you go to Hoover and do what you did there, and you're like, okay, kind of felt like they were going to be, fine. And it turned out to not be that. But that Ole Miss regional was crazy, and to watching that happen makes me, what was impressive? Kind of like the same thing with Kaysen, where you go on the road, you got a 12-3 lead, you give up 8 runs and it's 12-11. And the guy that they had on the mound, I forget his name, but man, that kid just kept pumping in like quality pitch after pitch after pitch in that situation where like a lot of guys would have had big misses or pitches right over the middle of the plate. Man, Buddy he wasn't budging. He was as flat line as can be. He was ice cold, and like that shit was impressive, man. So like there was some good ball played around, but those are the other 2 regionals that really like stuck out in my mind because just the way the games were played there and how things happened and how things unfolded.
They talk about like it's a game of inches, right? And you go watch the Vanderbilt series, and they're playing Who they play in the finals? Who
They never got to the
I mean, who beat him in that game?
Wright State.
Wright State. So they're playing Wright State, and they're down, whatever it is, and the guy hits the ball, and it bounces over the fence, ground rule double, and that ball stays in. That guy scores the tie game. Instead, they lose by one.
He scores without sliding. In that ball
I know, and it goes over the fence. So he goes back. They have the turf. It bounces, gets real bouncy, gets out of there, and so instead of it being a tie game, they're down one and they end up losing. It's just, little things like that make a big difference, and very unfortunate that
you forget too, like they're one of their best players or longest tenured players for sure. One of their best players, R.J. Austin. Like his last two at bats in that game was a 2-out bases loaded at bat where he flew out, and then a 2-out runners on second and third to end the game. And like those situations have been happening for him recently, and they were able to come through in the clutch, and you were just like, man, I was not expecting this. Like, it was just wild to see it.
Yeah. No, it's look. Miami didn't host, Louisville didn't host, Arizona didn't host, UTSA didn't host, Murray State didn't host, Duke didn't host. All those teams are in the supers. Wow, baseball is that to me that tells me baseball is in a really good place. There's a lot of parity in the game right now, and I think that's what makes college baseball really, really interesting. I'm glad LSU is in the supers. I'm glad they weren't not one of the teams that were hosting and didn't make it. Makes our conversation a lot better.
They had to. I mean, you almost had to fight fate, it felt like. Like, it felt like even though you were hosting a regional and you're the higher seed, it felt like everything was working against you to not be able to advance to a super. You see Vanderbilt go down, Texas go down, and you see Ole Miss go down. You see it, like you said, it's all around you. And then you see LSU be able to almost will itself to a victory where they should have been that hard. But we were kind of both saying it on Monday, like, they're no longer a 4 seed or the worst RPI team or a team with the losing record in a regional.
Yeah.
Now it's one to play one.
Right. And it's one game. And go ahead.
No, go ahead because you're finishing something about that. Go ahead.
No. It's just one. It's one game to go. Like anything can happen in one game, right? Like
then it's 5-1.
And then it goes 5-1. You're like, shit, we got to get going, type of thing. And it's just it's you can't ever take anything for granted, especially in postseason play. What were you gonna say, Jay?
I was gonna say that regional, but like I don't even know if y'all know it. For all that was good that Texas did this year, right? You won the SEC regular season. You're the number 2 national seed overall. I think you had the best start ever in the SEC schedule. I think they were 19-2 at one point, and their season. Look, I get it. Inside the program, you probably gonna sit there and say there was more, which you should be doing. But outside the program, their season came down to a 3-game series against UTSA, where all 3 games were played in Austin, and they got swept. UTSA came there and beat them early in the season, and then came to their regional and beat them 2 more times. That's really who put them out. Who put them out of the postseason.
Yep. And look, a lot of people were high on UTSA based off of how good of an offense they've had, and some of the teams they've beaten throughout the course of the year. So that was a popular pick coming out of that regional, and it's just, Texas had a great year. I know they had some big injuries.
Well, it's harder to win the SEC than it is to win a national championship.
I think you're muted.
Well, it's harder to win the SEC than it is to win a national championship.
So say. I don't believe that's the case.
And I gotta give some love to somebody like this too, like. That Angel Cano.
Oh.
Robinson Cano, you mean?
Yeah, for Arkansas Little Rock. That man came into the regional with 18 RBIs.
Yeah.
He had 15 in the regional.
In the regional. 15.
He almost doubled his season total in the regional.
Wild.
I've never seen anything like that.
You don't see that.
He was hitting 215.
Like, where do you see that?
I mean, he was hitting 215 as well. He almost got to 250 for the year.
Yeah. And here's the thing too, when you watch this swing, I'm like,
yeah.
215.
Yeah. And then he hit the homer that went to the moon. I'm like, oh my God.
That was honestly the first swing I really started paying attention to him on the weekend, and then he came back the next at bat, had to double the backside, and then I started looking at the numbers. I'm like, yo.
Yeah.
What? Who? Huh? This don't make any sense.
And I know they don't have a stat for this, but like they had to have the most foul balls in the history of regional. I mean, Little Rock fouled off everything. Everything. Like, they made LSU's pitching staff throw a ton of pitches. And not because they were walking everybody. That was part of it at the beginning. But they were fouling off everything. It was crazy.
Hey, I'm looking back to, like, stuff's just coming back to me because I'm just seeing some of the stuff too. But, like, Georgia, if I told you Georgia was going to play at home, host a regional in Athens, that they were going to score 30-plus runs in the regional, you would probably say, well, they probably swept the regional.
Yeah.
They hit 11 homers. I think they had 18 extra base hits. You'd probably say they swept the regional. Who they got in the super regionals? They went 1 and 2 and got bounced.
Right.
Like it's kind of crazy. Like that's just stuff that happened. You're like, huh?
It
was that kind of year, man.
It's been crazy. I mean, it's been wild, and it's not. I was mentioning this earlier. It's not because the SEC is overrated. I know a lot of people are trying to say that. It's not because of that. It's because there's a lot of parity in baseball, and it's hard to win. Baseball is a hard thing to win. I don't think the SEC is overinflated as far as RPI numbers goes. I think that all the teams in the SEC are really good, and they're going to play some really good teams in the postseason. They're not all going to get through all the time, and it's just the way the game goes.
I agree with that. Lloyd, why are you being so quiet?
He's working.
I'm concerned. I'm waiting for our guests to join.
Well, I did send him a text to see if the link went through.
I did, and then I sent him a separate link. I sent him to join the meeting in progress. If he did, I know he got the email, and I sent him another email just to make sure. So
that's fine.
But then it feels like it's my fault because
he hadn't answered me yet, so he's probably busy. He'll come in when he can.
Yeah, exactly.
He was very flexible with us today. That's nice.
Yeah, I mean,
very nice of him. I got a lot of questions I want to ask him though. Like
me too.
There's obviously, we talk about this past weekend, and we talk about some of the performances, some of the stuff that he saw, and some of the stuff that he's happy that these guys stepped up. But then there's a conversation about, hey, like you have the rotation moving forward. Is it going to go back to the Anderson Ianson TBD type of thing, right? I'd imagine it's going to be TBD, and I think that Case, and he's not going to really tell us this, but I'd imagine Case and Evans is going to be available every game. If there's a chance to win, you win. And if you don't throw him, you start him maybe, or you do what you need to do. That
was going to be my question. Is he now, after what you saw, and in a regional or super regional, it becomes, I don't want to say easier, but the math works out a little bit better where it's just 1-2.
Right.
And now everybody, of course, is going to hop on you can't pitch Case and Evans, he's a starter.
Well, that's the thing. That's not the case, in my opinion.
I agree.
In my opinion, if they have a chance to win the series in Game 2, he's pitching.
Yeah.
Like, he's throwing. And to win it, like that's just you don't have to get. Let's not get to a Game 3. Let's not worry about that. Let's just win the first 2 and then move on. So I think that is very much in play.
Yeah, that's the only other thing you'll like. The other scenarios, what you saw on Sunday, is if you're within 1 or 2, if you're LSU, do you put Case and Evans in, or do you ride with the rest of the squad? Like, is it Jacob Myers? Is it those guys? Because the other thing that you saw was Cowan. Like, it's hard to know if you have the 2 guys that you had throughout the year, like Cowan and Evans, and now it feels like, well, Cowan.
I think Cowan will be. I think Cowan will be all right. Like, obviously, it's been more than you would want to see. Like, the struggles have been more than you want to see. But let's. It has been a couple weeks since he threw. So let's just say let's chalk that up as like, hey, he's getting some rust off, and he's gonna get back.
Really, look, I know it's like kind of happened the last couple times he's been out, but like, can you really lump without looking at just the stat line? Can you really lump what he did last outing into like the last struggled outings? Because I don't really believe so. Like there's one barrel that he hit. There's another like kind of ass out, let me flail one, and there's some CNI singles that happen in there, and that's really it. Like I just don't.
I think it's more of a rust thing. I mean, he hit a guy, he walked a guy. Like, I think that's more of a rust thing, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that it has anything to do with his abilities. It's just, hey, let's get back on track, and hopefully he got it. There he is.
Oh.
Wow, he just threw you right on the screen, Coach. Like, didn't even give me an opportunity to, like.
Hey, when I call the number, Coach,
didn't even give me an opportunity to introduce him. I guess let's jump right into it since the surprise is ruined. Thanks, Lloyd.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome back to the show. 2025 Baton Rouge Regional champs, national championship coach Jay Johnson. Coach, welcome back to the show. Appreciate you. I appreciate you being so flexible with your time tonight.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah,
I am where I am tonight, so it's all good.
No doubt. Well, Coach, we're not going to keep you long. Let's jump right into it. Obviously, the conversation I'm sure you've talked a lot about was this past weekend. And so before we get to West Virginia, I want to talk a little bit about this past regional. Obviously, Little Rock came in extremely scrappy. Everybody wants to look at the record, do all these types of things. They were in the championship of the regional for a reason. They were playing good baseball. They're fouling everything off. They made you work, and they put you in a position where it was kind of hey, we gotta look ourselves in the mirror and kind of figure this thing out. And you throw Kason Evans in the game, and Kason Evans seemed like he was I don't want to say the last hope, but one of the last guys that has the ability to go long and kind of give you some extended innings as a freshman in that moment, in that situation, season on the line, and he brings out his best performance of his career so far. Talk a little bit about that and some of the other performances that happened and kind of propelled y'all to a championship.
Yeah, it was pretty unbelievable performance, but very believable when you know Kason. And the regional is one of the toughest weekends to manage, of the whole season. Obviously it's the first time your whole season's on the line. You're condensed potentially into the most games in the smallest amount of time that you play all season. There's some strategy with how to set up the pitching. If you fall into the loser's bracket, it's kind of one game at a time, desperation mode, but you're also trying to match up still. And then it's the great position to be in the 2-0 thing, but it's a little bit, you got to think hard on how to navigate that. And if you're behind, in that 2-0 game against the team that's 2-1, how do you go about doing that? And, we have a really good offense, so you obviously want to believe in it. But I loved having that, what I would call ace in the hole for Monday night. I really believe in him, obviously really believe in Zach, and knew we would have Anthony for, 3 to 6 outs, and felt like that was a good insurance policy, whatever you want to call it, and worked out pretty good, with the exception of, giving up a big inning. Very, very few times are you going to give up a 5-run inning and be able to win.
Right.
But, felt really good about, having Zach and Kason and Anthony is kind of plan A, and that's how it worked out.
Coach, I kind of want to go a little bit further than that, because I got to imagine, especially like you said, like that's a tough situation, right? Like there is so much trust in Zach, so much trust in Kason, and like you're in a win-all, do-or-die situation, but it's also the second inning, and I get it. You give up 5. Like, how do you make the decision on, all right, I think we need to get him up. All right, I think he needs to get hot. Hell, it's time for us to bring him in at this point, knowing what you got right there,
Yeah, so first off, going back to Sunday's game, like the plan was, like, let's say we're up 5-1. One of them's going in,
right?
And then the other one's finishing it. But then when we fell down, 6-4, then it became like, okay, if we can get it to the tie game, then I'm comfortable putting one of them in. But then that's tricky too, because we're playing in our ballpark, but we're the visiting team,
right.
So, and you don't want to sacrifice like losing the whole deal by just being greedy. So how that kind of played out, even in the in the bottom of the 8th inning, where they actually opened it up, it actually kind of simplified things a little bit, and it made me feel like validated, like we didn't win, but we operated that game the right way, and felt like we had a really good plan A. Now, to your question, Jared, on Monday, there was a kind of a thought of how we were going to do the game and break up the game, and I told him, after the first inning to go down there. Like, my plan initially was, if Zach got us into the 4th inning, we were in really good shape, because then you're looking at 3 to 4 from Kason, and then 1 to 2 from Anthony, 3 to 6 outs.
Yeah.
So really just kind of watching how well Little Rock had played to that point. And then it was an evaluation of the first time through the order, how they were seeing pitches, reacting to pitches. How long would we be able to get him to? Was it going to be a one-time or a two-time through the order type thing for Zach with, keeping us out of the big inning? And then it's like, hey, it's a one-game season at that point, and you can't wait to, I guess you would say, fire your bullet. And I just felt like once it got to 3-1 traffic, maybe the way that Little Rock was just hot, man. We needed to change it up, and then it was like figure out that later, and then we had some options still, like with Rizzi and Shores had thrown just enough pitches, or not quite enough pitches, where they were available, and then Connor Ware was available, and Primo, if we needed to match up to kind of bridge the gap from Kaysen to Anthony. And so I just felt like, hey, I can't let this thing get too much further, because you guys know this. It's a whole lot different 5-1 than like 7-1. Correct. And, in a championship game, you don't want to be behind by a lot. But the most impressive thing to me of the whole night was our dugout when we were down 5-1. Like, these guys were locked in, high-level conversations, no panic. And they shouldn't, because, we've come back from a game like that at home like 4 times this year, and had some really good success.
But those situations, too, that brings it a little different. I love that you mentioned that, because down at home is a little bit different than, hey, this is the last one if we don't win this thing. And those conversations could change from dugout to dugout. You just don't know, that's a different situation.
No doubt. And we talked about it a lot, and I really believe this, with all the postseason experience, whether it was at Arizona or here, like, the team that scores first and has the lead in the postseason has a big advantage. Like, it's a big advantage. And especially when you have, some pitching options that we do. And we really wanted to work ahead in the game. Sunday, we jumped out to 3. It obviously did not work out that way, but that's a credit to Little Rock. And again, one last, I would say, massive hat tip to those guys. They played their rear ends off, coached well, and and that was part of the decision to start Anthony on Friday. Was if we needed him on Monday, we would have him available. And then watching them in the conference tournament, it didn't take me very long to go like, I'm not judging the whatnot. We're going with Anthony.
Yeah. Coach, one more question about this past weekend, and then we can move on to West Virginia. You talk about the Sunday game and talk about, you had opportunities early on. You had, I think, the second, third, fourth inning. You had the opportunity to kind of break the game open, kind of catch back up. And, it just didn't work out. Guys flew out, missed some pitches. And then you go to the next game. And you have Kaysen Evans come in and do his thing. And then that opportunity comes, and you can kind of feel the crowd just kind of bubbling. And it's like, okay, here we go again. You knew at some point somebody was going to have to step up to get the big hit and get you going. And Ethan Fry did that. Cool. He did feel like he did that all weekend.
4 times.
I did it 4 times that game. Opposite field double that I felt made a hole in the wall. I think it was 117 miles an hour. Cleared the bases, and it kind of felt like you got a big exhale from everybody, obviously in the crowd. But then even in the dugout, like, okay, just takes one, and now we go. Ethan Fry this year has been nothing short of sensational for y'all, and then obviously he's playing his best baseball now. Talk about that moment and talk about how much of a, I don't want to call it a relief, but I guess a fire starter for the offense that was.
Yeah, that really helped. I think we had 2 really good at-bats in front of that. We pinch hit Ashton Larson, which going into the game, we kind of laid out a plan of how we were going to win, and him getting an AB with a runner on base was definitely part of that. And we did it early too. And I told him, don't be surprised if it's early in the right spot. So good at bat by him. And then Derek walked after that. And then, we shuffled the deck to get Ethan up to the plate more. And it obviously really paid dividends right there. And, one of the reasons we did that, and, you guys just mentioned he's been so solid. It's because he's solid mentally and has the ability to slow the game down and stay in his plan and not try to do too much. And, he certainly did that all night on Monday. That's one of the best games I've ever had a player play. And you consider the magnitude of the situation, it makes it even more, awesome. It kind of reminded me of Dylan's game in Game 3 of the finals of the College World Series against Florida.
And Coach, don't be shy. You can give yourself credit for shuffling the deck. I mean, somebody has to make that decision. It was you.
Yeah, I just thought about what would Lloyd want me to do.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's it. Lloyd said, you know what? I think Ethan Friday hit 2 all. I probably should text Jay.
Yeah,
So
just
that's what happened.
Yeah,
Giving you credit, Lloyd.
That's bad. Cade Beloso leadoff. Works.
Yeah, there you go. Just, we're just throwing it up against the wall. Hey, let's try this.
Jared, you got one for him?
Yeah, Coach, I got one for you. It's not necessarily about any of the games that y'all played, but I just can't, I feel like this was a hot topic. We had a conversation a lot over the weekend. The format of the regional, much like, like college football, there's so much media coverage that comes around it. And when there's something that doesn't look right is going on, it's like that they fix it, right? Like just this past year, we implement the playoff system. We found out once we got to the playoffs that it didn't play out the way we were thinking. Higher seeds, people got seeded higher than. If you get the regional at home, and we're going to play a home regional, why the hell aren't the higher seeded teams always the home team? It doesn't make any sense. There's no way y'all don't think about that as well.
Yeah, no, and I've been a 2 seed a few times on the road and have totally taken advantage of the rule that worked against us this weekend. Kind of a funny story. In 2016, we were at Louisiana Lafayette, and we won the 1-1 game. I think we were playing Sam Houston State. And then now we had to beat ULL twice. And I was kind of doing the math in my head. I was like, holy cow, we're going to be the home team in both of these games. And it was before the rule, that you could stay in your own dugout. You had to switch dugouts.
Yeah.
And then we had we had the red jerseys. That was kind of our version of the gold jerseys. And ULL always wanted to wear red in the last game. And I was I went up to the tournament rep and I was like, we're the home team, we're in the third base dugout, and we're wearing red all day. And so I was like, wait a minute, this is actually the opposite of that now. And so we just, all we did really is we didn't even make a deal of it with the team. We just alerted them hey, we're the visiting team. Tomorrow, let's be ready to hit first, ready to score 2 in the first. And we did on Sunday. We scored 3. Yeah. Ethan had a homer on Monday. So I don't think that was really a big deal. Now, at the end of the game, it did make a factor, with how we were going to use Anthony, because it was all right, if this thing gets stretched into extras, he only has so many pitches. All right, we have to have a contingency plan after that. So, I would here's my proposal is, okay, if you play a team 3 times in a regional, the higher seeded team in the third game is the home team. I think that would solve that would solve that.
I mean, and the thought process of it too, I get, you're the 1 seed in this situation. It's obviously not always going to be the 1 seed, but if it's set up this way and it goes to a game 7, man, I got to have the home team, the 1 seed, being the home team in the game 7. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, and matter of fact, I was laughing about it last year because, I knew the rules, same exact thing happened. And when we beat North Carolina on Sunday night, I saw Scott Forbes, who I have all the respect for in the world, losing his mind talking to the reps. And I'm like, oh, they're telling him we're the home team.
I wish they would scrap that, but we got to change that, man.
I'm on board. I'm on board with that.
Yeah, it just got use common sense. It's game 7, host seed or the higher seed should be the home team without a doubt.
But Coach, did you go heads or tails?
There's no more coin
flip.
No coin flip
That's
either?
what you said. There's no coin flip. It's
wow. Damn.
Yep.
What would you have called?
I don't know, but actually, good. Actually, I just remember this too. It's the same in Omaha, and we were the home team against Wake Forest in both of those games also, because we fell in the losers bracket, so it meant we were visitors one more time than them, and lucky for us, Tommy Tank.
hey, when it's on the other foot, it makes it feel a little bit better, no doubt.
Yes,
no doubt. All right, look, you have a big series win, you have a big regional win. You got to move on from it at some point. You get West Virginia this weekend. Obviously, West Virginia was not the team going into the postseason that they're playing the Clemson regional. Everybody just assumed Clemson was going to come. West Virginia is a really good team. They swing the bat pretty well. Not a big homer team, but a big double team. I know you love doubles, and that's something that you've preached a lot about. They hit a bunch of doubles. They have a bunch of guys that can drive the balls in the gaps. I know you're doing your scouting right now. I know you're kind of getting into it. But what are some of the problems that West Virginia poses? Obviously, they swept through their regional and they made it here for a reason. So what should we expect to see from them?
Yeah, I'm actually almost done with kind of the position player side of it, and at least as far as what I do, the coaches are into it all week. And very old position players, very confident, very aggressive style. They do a really good job putting the ball in play. They're well coached. Coach Saban's their head coach. It's his first year, and guy I've always been impressed with from afar. And I mean, this is their second straight super regional, and so that's a credit to them and that program. And they recruit well and have good athletes, and they're playing with a lot of confidence. I mean, they're the Big 12 champions. That doesn't happen by accident. And really good team, really good couple starting pitchers, couple hard throwers in the bullpen, and they play with a lot of energy and enthusiasm. So good, really good opponent, and we're going to have to play very well to be successful this weekend.
Coach,
I'm glad you mentioned the starting rotation. And when you have a short series like this, how important is it to really tax that Friday night or that game one starter, if you will? How important is that?
I mean, I just think that's good baseball, period. Yeah. And so, it's foundational. So, I mean, in this situation, I mean, the guy throws like 125 pitches a game. So it's like not like he's going to be coming out or anything like that. Yeah. And so, and I mean, shoot, they actually did what we did with Ianson on 2 days rest. They actually did it on 1 day's rest, and he finished the game 3 of the regional. Wow. And so, he's obviously a competitor, and he's obviously tough. So I don't even know if it really matters other than what's, offensive productivity, in this game, to be honest.
Coach, I know a lot of people are having conversations or asking questions that aren't obviously baseball people and talking about how is the rotation going to set up now that Anthony threw on Sunday. That was kind of similar to like a bullpen day, I would imagine. That was, day 3. I'd imagine he has a bullpen. You have a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, if necessary, Monday. So, K's on full rest, Ianson's on full rest. That's not really going to affect any way that you kind of manage the rotation, correct? It's just kind of a matchup game, and you're going to decide, who matches up with who and go that way?
Yeah, we haven't made any decision on how we're going to do that yet. I think with all of the players right now, making sure they're in a good spot as we're deep into the season is the first and foremost priority, for them to be able to execute, because you have to win 2. And I'm not really, totally there yet as far as how we're going to lay it out or draw it up. But we'll just do what's best for the players, best for the guys to go out and be successful.
Coach, I got to ask about him because, he ended the game, or his last at-bat ends up being a bang. And how big do you think an at-bat like that is for Bear Jones to be able to kind of take the monkey off, go through the week and do his work and not have to really think about the lows or the ruts of things that happens and get back to where he is and doing this thing?
Yeah, first off, he's been a phenomenal leader and wants to win and just wants to keep playing. And I think that's where a lot of the, self-induced whatever pressure or whatever comes from, just because he cares a lot. And I love that about him. And really, we kind of just went back to work, even Monday. And like when we've needed to get him back on track, this is what we did, and we did it. And he was ready to roll. Him for that. And like I said, I think it can have a positive effect going forward. But I would trust him anyway, whether that swing happened or not. It sure made his coach feel a hell of a lot better going into the 9th inning, I can tell you that. Matter of fact, I was so excited, like I get this big fist pump, and I woke up the next morning, I'm like, God, my arm is sore. I'm like, oh my gosh, it was when he hit the home run. I got so excited.
I was there with you, Coach.
A little too fired up, I guess.
Nah, so. can never be too fired up. Last question before you go. You've had a lot of big games in Baton Rouge. I don't believe that you've had a regional deciding game at home on a Monday at 8 p.m. And you've had obviously Tennessee came here a couple years ago. They came in this year. Arkansas came here this year. You had some rain delays. Talk about the crowd and how special that was, showing up on a Monday night and having the energy and doing what they did.
Yeah, I think it's by far the best experience I've had in the box. And, there have been some really, really good ones. Tuesday night to me in the box is awesome.
Right.
Like, I mean, I have so much respect for the engagement of our fans, but kind of two things happened in that game. I felt like they really lifted our team when they needed it the most. Like, if they were a little, anxious if we were going to come back and win, and maybe disappointed we didn't get a couple key hits or whatever, or carry over from Sunday night, or the games were too late because of ESPN, like, they stayed with it. And that was the first thing. And I feel like that really, really lifted our team. And then once Ethan got that big hit, then they did what they do, and they made it really, really hard on the opponent. And, and the opposing pitcher. And they've done that this year. I think, I want to say it was the Arkansas game. I felt like they really affected that game that we won in extra innings. And I thought they certainly did that on Monday night. So, it's been great since I've been here. Like, I mean, regular season games, SEC games, Tuesday night, postseason. But I'll say Monday night was my best experience of the crowd really impacting our team in a positive way that since I've been here.
Yeah, the box is it's magical, and there's been many of times throughout my career as a fan and even as a player where you felt like the crowd made a difference, and so you could feel that watching the game, whether you're watching on TV or you're in the crowd, and hopefully they're gonna, I have no doubt they're going to continue that going into the Super Regional. Coach, we appreciate you again. Thank you for being so flexible with your time. Sometimes you just got to deal with
idiots,
some adversity.
I called myself a bent nickel.
Yep. But we appreciate you. Good luck this weekend. Looking forward to.
You're not the only one that gets advice from Skip.
I actually used that speech before, and I didn't even know it came from Skip when I did it. So then when I found that out, I was like, it's all meant to be. It's all meant to be.
Absolutely. Enjoy the weekend, Coach. We're going to enjoy it. We're going to be there. Good luck, and hopefully we'll be talking to you next weekend before y'all go to Omaha.
All right, guys.
All right.
Have a great night.
You always get the giggles from him, Lloyd.
That's right.
You do get the giggle. And listen.
Hey, whenever you have to battle back for adversity, you got to put your best foot forward.
Look, and I don't. I'm going to say this on here so that everybody's held accountable. I don't want this to become a habit, right? Because it hasn't been a habit, right?
You're trying to catch me before.
Yeah, I'm trying to get ahead of this before this happens again. Okay.
I don't even get the chance to not go to rehab.
It hasn't.
You're going now.
It hasn't been a habit. This has happened a couple times recently, which I'll give you. I don't want to give you an excuse, but I will understand it. I will say this: you wait till the last minute, and you end up whenever you do come to, and you end up becoming alive again. The urgency of you getting from your house to the studio is, one, impressive, and two, shows me that whenever you tell me that you're going to get here and you don't show up for 25 minutes later, you have no excuse now.
I don't know how it happens
to get here. So, I'm just letting you know, you've proven to me that you can get here in less than 10 minutes. And so I would like for you to do that and not, have to panic.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Agreed. I don't want it to be.
I know. I know it's not because you don't care. It's because sometimes things happen.
I care too much.
Sometimes things happen. I just wanted to put that out there. Everybody's
Steve Jobs.
Everybody's held accountable.
Exactly. Hey, put me up in front of the team. I apologize. Look, I'm a man.
I wasn't going to do it. It was
Coach, I got something to say.
I appreciate that.
It's on me.
You know who else got something to say? The chat. Is Ask Mikey and Mitch. We got to get some questions here before we go shut down City on the show.
That's right. Let's see if we have anything on the Twitter. Because there's a lot of people in the chat, so it's going to have to be a quick scroll through to find it that way. I'll have to go through it live.
On a different note, though, I am looking at these at West Virginia's numbers. Coach, they do hit a ton of doubles. Yeah. They got a guy with 16. They got a guy with 15. They got a guy with 21. They got a guy with 12, 12, 12. Like, they only have one guy in double digits homers. And that guy also has 15 doubles. So he's obviously their best hitter. He's their left fielder, but they're going to be a scrappy offensive team, it feels like. They're going to do the same thing Little Rock did, try foul pitches off, put the ball in play, do those types of things. It's going to be a battle for a lot of our pitching staff. Did I give you enough buffer?
Yep, perfect. And they battle. Like, they've been down multiple times.
Oh, you're talking about in
West
the
Virginia,
actual games. Yeah,
like they've been – it's going to be it's West Virginia.
Maybe the Baton Rouge Regional is going to get a little bit more love because West Virginia's in there from McAfee.
No,
get a little bit more publicity.
It's going to be. I mean, I was a student whenever West Virginia came to town, and when Patrick Peterson hit the Heisman, like those people don't play around.
Oh,
like,
they're huge sports. It's a huge sports school.
That's all they got. It's all we got. And so it'll be interesting because it was very contentious in the box. I mean, in Tiger Stadium, so I imagine it will be in the box as well. But I hope it's all fun, not too contentious.
Yep.
Ask Mikey and Mitch from Richie to Snowman.
Hey, Richie, always in there.
That's right. What did it feel like as a player? Hit me up, Richie. What did it feel like as a player when the box erupted during postseason play? How would y'all use that emotion in your play? Ask Mikey.
That's a great question.
Great
Mr.
question,
Snowman.
Richie the Snowman.
Let's just put it like this. I think as a fan, you remember like these special moments and when it got loud, and you probably don't think the players remember it too. We got recently reminded of like a moment that happened, and I ain't gonna lie to you, it kind of brought me chills because I can remember exactly when that was. I remember exactly what that felt like. I remember exactly how it was going into that moment, and like there was I don't know that you actually quote unquote feel it during it, but like it almost gives you that like untouchable, feels like you're floating kind of feeling. And then when you come off of that high, whenever that may be, you sit back and you're like, damn, that shit was wild. And like you remember that for a long, long time. And I think, we fans remember some stuff that goes on for a long time and where they were and how they felt. I promise you players remember that stuff too. So I think that was really cool that Jake can talk about that moment, the double that got hit and how it felt in the stadium, because the fans created that moment. Yeah. And I promise you every single one of those players are going to remember that moment for a long ass time too.
Yeah. And there's, we talk about the magic of Alex Box, and like, that's not just hyperbole. That's not just something that we say because we're trying to, elevate the mystique of the stadium. Like, that's a real thing. And so as a player, you feel it, and honestly, you utilize that. Like, hey, we just got to get a bloop and a blast, a walk, a bloop, get on base, get some guys going because the crowd's going to get up, and then somebody's going to get a hit, and it is just like this momentum that you can create, right? And there's a few moments in my career that, stand out because of that, right? In 2009, that game again, the regional game against Baylor. I know a lot of people look, in 2009, y'all went undefeated in the postseason up until the second game against Texas, and you won the national championship. You breezed through it. Like, no, it wasn't that easy. Down 2-0 against Southern in the 7th in that regional, and then had to play Baylor to go to the regional finals to go to to be the 2-0 team. Alcinola has the game-winning hit, and I think in the 8th inning, and sold-out crowd, night game, like it erupted, and then you go out and you finish the game on the mound with you close it out, and it's just those moments stick with you. And then in 2010, he talked about Arkansas here. We played Arkansas, and we were down 6 runs in the 7th inning. And they brought in a guy out the bullpen, and while he's in the bullpen, he threw 3 balls to the backstop all the way to the catcher, so the umpire had to call time. And he got so rattled because the fans were in his face that he came into the game and he walked the first 2 guys, hit a guy, gave up a bloop, and we scored 7 runs in the 7th and ended up winning the game. And that's to me as a credit to the crowd of putting the pressure on them. So yeah, it matters, and it's when you feel it, it kind of gives you a little bit of a boost. Lloyd,
I didn't know if he was going to accentuate your point, but yes, from your mama fat as hell.
Hey,
Evans wrote the first chapter of his legacy. Down 5-1, do or die, hold it there. 9 Ks, 12 total. Little Rock had no answers. Ball was falling off the table. Dog. Super chat for $5.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Very much a dog. Very much wrote a big chapter in his legacy here at LSU. He had written a couple chapters before that throughout the course of his freshman year, but this was the first one that really matters. His first taste of postseason ball, and boy did he deliver. Boy did he deliver. That's how you start building your legend. Legendary status here in Baton Rouge, doing stuff like that in the postseason.
Fielded his position, too.
He's a shortstop.
Third.
Yep. Jay.
Yeah, no, 100%. He, I don't think that's the first chapter of his legacy, right? Like That kid came in from the start, from the first outing. You were like, oh shit, this looks different.
Yep.
And he continued to do that all year. And then all of a sudden we said, you know what, let's start him. And then he goes out there and I think gives you either 6 or 7 scoreless at that point. So like the book had already been opened and started to be written. And then now you got, okay, make sure you put a star by this chapter because that's one you're going to come back to years later and revisit it. But nah, man, he was special. It was impressive. Like you just heard Jay talk about, like I knew we could have him for 3 to 4, where he gave you 6 scoreless.
Yeah. Thanks for the super chat.
That's what he was able to do. Like that shit's special, man.
Yeah, shout out your mama fat as hell. Thanks for the super chat. Next one up from the Fonz. Jay does what he wants for the lineup based on matchups, but do you keep the lineup from the last game? I really liked it. No one had all the pressure on them.
I mean, I'll go ahead and say what I want. I've been saying it all year, man. Like that's just how I feel about it. Especially now that you see how he's elevated his game in the postseason. I think if you wanted to go Bear back to 2 and Dickinson at 3, but I think having Ethan and I think having Hernandez in the middle of the lineup to be able to anchor that part of the lineup to where people really understand I can't really pitch around Bear. I can't really just flip and breaking balls. I can't really just hope he either walks and or strikes out chasing my shit. Like that's the kind of stuff that like I think that those guys, the presence that they have, and now the recent memory of people understanding and seeing them doing it in big spots, like I think that shit would help Bear a ton in the lineup. And I just think that's a huge part of what he does. And it's no knock to anybody else who's hitting those positions, but if I just stood people side by side, you look at those two guys a little bit different than you look at the rest, right? And then with the recent success and how they've swung it, that brings a little bit more. So I think those two guys in the middle of the lineup is I think that's their route and their recipe to being the team that's last standing at the end of the year.
Yeah,
that's just me.
And I don't know if Jay's gonna move Bear back to the 2-hole, but I mean after a performance like that from Fry, like I would not be shocked if they kept Ethan there at the 2-hole, and I wouldn't be shocked if they put Bear behind him at the 3-hole. I just, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm with Jared. I think those guys got to be back-to-back one way or the other. And, look, don't sleep on Milam now. Milam that was the first weekend in a long time that you felt like Milam was barreling up a lot of balls, right? Even his outs were barreled, and he had a good weekend. So that's another addition of getting a guy getting back hot, at the right time. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I don't think they're going to keep Bear at 6, hitting 6th. But it's hard to move Fry out of that 2 spot. I just think both those guys are going to be back to back, one way or the other. Whether it's 2 and 3, or Bears 2 and Fry's 3, or Fry's 2 and Bears 3.
Yeah.
Also, can I say something?
Yeah.
Can we stop?
So. Your show.
Can we stop with the? I mean, Dickinson's my guy. I love him. I think he's a good. Can we stop with the 0-1 square and pull back to get to 0-2?
Same thing happened to Brownswell. You got 3-0 squared to butt.
Right, but you're hitting 330 with 12.
I don't care if you're hitting 220 with 1. Like for me, if you go down in the count, this is just me. If you go down in the count and you're gonna square the next pitch, you better damn well be putting it down and putting down a perfect bunt. Because I'm not pulling back to go to 0-2 thinking I'll get myself like it doesn't really make any sense in terms of putting yourself in a position to succeed at that point. And I get it. Like I've seen these things happen before, and I just think maybe that's when we got to think through a little bit more in terms of you understand what's happening if you pull back at that time. Like what you lose compared to what you would gain by him throwing a ball in that situation is like, is it really worth it?
Well, that's a conversation I really do want to ask. Like, I'm curious. Like, what's the? And I'm not saying this as a sarcasm. Like, what is the thought process? Like, what is your thought process doing that? Like, is it something that gets you locked in? Is it something like what is it? And why don't we do it 0-0 instead of 0-1? I don't know.
I think this is an easy thing to probably know, but just to clarify, like that's Dickinson doing it on his own, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Right.
I would imagine it.
Yeah.
And it could be like if I'm trying to find not an excuse, but a reason why he might be looking for like a certain pitch. If he sees he's playing back, and
I've seen him take fastballs.
Right? Yeah, I don't know.
So
Coach, I was a guy that didn't mind faking a bunt if I knew it was a pitch that I was going to be taking in that situation. I understood for a long time after I got to do it, the cost what you're gonna lose and what you're gonna get, and that point doesn't make much sense. So like, I don't even want to try to like think about what he might be trying to do. I would love to just ask the question. You give it to me because I truly don't understand.
Yeah, right. And look, maybe like bringing a guy in is an option, but like, I don't know. Like you said, the risk.
But like, okay, you bring him in, you take the ball. I mean, you take a strike. He's right back because you're
he's 0-2.
So like, you didn't. What did you really get out of it? Like,
exactly.
There's so many things I'm just like,
exactly.
I don't understand it.
Exactly. All right, next, a few more.
Got a lot.
I know we got a lot. I'm sorry. Had a late start.
Late start. That's what I mean. We'll keep some of these. You know.
Yeah, we'll do it again on Friday.
Come back and answer the rest of your
We
questions.
don't have a game to get out of here on Friday on for.
That's right.
You know?
It's actually a sneaky production trick I learned. So I'll just like this is how you stretch content. From Creek Baham, WVU had a lot of hits against Kentucky. What is the magic number of runs LSU will need per game to win the Supers?
That's an impossible answer.
LSU, whenever they scored over 6, is one they're like 23 and 4.
Okay, let's do that. Let's say 6 runs.
Anything over 6, LSU usually wins.
Let's say 6 runs. I
like 8, man. You saw what those kids did in that regional that they just played in Clemson. Like, they're not afraid to come back. They hit doubles. They're scrappy, like Jay talked about. They're an older team. They're an experienced group in the lineup. Give me 8+.
Yeah,
that's where I think they're good.
This shit ain't gonna be easy.
No,
like this is not a
no Super Regional is gonna be
easy. It like Arkansas Little Rock. If you didn't learn, like don't look at anything other than and they're
good. Stony Brook. Everybody thought that one was easy. Wasn't easy. Coastal Carolina. People thought that was easy. Not easy, right?
Houston.
Like y'all forget. LSU makes it out of the UNC Regional last year. LSU's playing against West Virginia last year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Crazy. The Fonz. How do you think Jay will handle the reliever arms? With Cowan struggles lately, still a good arm. If up in game 1, throw him or throw Evans to get the first win, or save him for game 2 to win it all. Down game 2, save Evans for game 3.
I'll say this: I don't believe they throw Evans game 1. I believe that if they're gonna throw Evans, it'll be game 2 to finish it, or game 3.
I think this is what happens. I think it's pretty obvious that Evans is the one that you want to shut the door. So if you're able to get 6 2/3 and or 7 from whoever is going to start game 1, which I would imagine would be Cade at this point, I think Evans throws in that situation.
Okay.
I do. I think Cowan is the one that think about what Griffin did, and not so much in the close, but in terms of like bridging to however we're going to get to those last 3 outs, if you will. Like, I think that has been the role that he's been super successful in this year. And I think that's where we're going to try to see him back in that situation. So if you're able to get one of those starts where you don't sit here and say, I think I got to go get Kaysen and I got to throw him in the 6th through the – I don't think that's the situation you want to be in. I do think, though, if you're able to get that kind of a start out of Cade, once again, I'm imagining he's going to be starting game 1. If you're able to get him and there's only, let's say, 5 to 6, maybe 4 to 6 outs that Cowan needs to get with the lead, not down 1, maybe. I wouldn't expect it. But like tie ball game in or a lead, and there's 6 outs to get, 4 to 6 outs to get. I won't be shocked at all. I think Cowan is. I think Cowan is not Cowan. I'm sorry.
I was confused. I was like, wait a minute, wait.
If we're pivoting,
I think Kaysen is who they throw at that point. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I was like, I know you said Kaysen. I was like, wait, did you change your mind mid?
Because you got to remember, we just talked about it. Like, he threw on Monday. That means Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday would be that day 4 or day 4, right? So at that point, if he was a starter at that point, he would throw a bullpen or a side or whatever the guys are going to do at that point. So I do think, you can see him in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying you can't. I don't know.
I'll say it like this: if I'm coaching the team this weekend and I get 7,
you want to win the game.
Yes.
Yeah, I get that.
I want him in. If he's good enough to go, I'm putting him in there.
No, I get that.
I want that 1-0 lead more than I worried about him closing out the series.
I get that. No, I get that. 100%. Lloyd?
This is a existential question, and I think it's a good one. From I'll Run This City with 2 T's, Blake City. Ask Mikey and Mitch. After all the upsets in regionals, do you think that's an impact of players not getting playing time at bigger schools, transferring and increasing the talent of these smaller schools? Do you expect this to continue or increase in future tournaments?
I think that yeah, like people talk about the NIL and transfer portal and how all these small schools are going to get crushed by these bigger schools, and they transfer. Yeah, that's true. But there's not all the guys that transfer out of these smaller schools are going to get an opportunity at these bigger schools. Or you have to think all the guys that are all these bigger schools are losing guys too and getting put into the transfer portal, and they're not going to have an opportunity to go to some of these other bigger schools because there's not enough room. So yeah, they're going to find themselves with some other guys that
it's like a weird swap of talent.
Have been in college for a long time, older rosters, older teams like this West Virginia team. And when you have the experience and you have a 23-year-old playing against an 18-year-old, like that makes a big difference.
So you got to understand, baseball is a little bit different than basketball and football in terms of chemistry and how those things are played. Like for my lineup to work cohesively, for us to be a good lineup, I don't necessarily need to play with you the year before, right? Like we see it in baseball all the time. People get traded at the break and they go to their team and they go off, right? Like that, we see that all the time in the major leagues. So it's plug and play in those situations. I do think defensively there's some chemistry and things that got to be learned about each other to be able to play with each other. But as far as for plugging and playing a lineup, I think the smaller schools get hurt because a team like a Murray State, a team like why am I forgetting? But where Zach Cowan came from last year, that's how he gets here. You get what I'm saying? No, so I do think in terms of retention and keeping those guys there, yeah, they get hurt 100%. But I don't think in terms of, hey, 1 year when they spring and they can go, you never know where it can go because baseball it's so much more of a plug and play sport than basketball and football is.
Yeah, and look, you're going to have guys from these bigger schools transfer, and they're not going to get opportunities at some of these smaller schools, and they're going to go out there and they're going to play, and they're going to end up playing better than they played at the bigger school and have an opportunity and maybe turn their career around or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see it continue as far as some of these teams that are coming out of nowhere are kind of figuring out a way to compete in baseball in the postseason. All right, one more, and then we're going to get to the seggies, and we got to bounce.
Okay, last one up. From Roosevelt Historia at Bourbon_Brawny.
We're getting some new names.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
What, in your opinion, is the most magical part of baseball?
Wow. Kind of deep.
Yeah.
I would say the drama and the suspense of postseason baseball. Like, you can't sit here and tell me that everybody wasn't losing their minds in the second inning when it's 5-1, thinking, oh my God, it's actually about to happen. And then as the rest of the game keeps going and we're throwing up zeros, but then like, oh my God, we still haven't scored yet. And then once the tide starts turning, the actual rise that it is up that everybody takes, and everybody starts living and dying off of every strike thrown, ball put in play, out made, hit, everything. I think that is the most special thing in baseball. And you don't, because of how baseball is played, you don't truly get that in the regular season. But once you get to the postseason, it's a different thing. Yeah. I think that's the most magical part of it.
And that's very well said. I think the living and the dying on each pitch. And I think, everybody talks about how can you not be romantic about baseball. Mm-hmm. And, I think there's a lot of, stories out there. There's a lot of, situations where, like, there's a guy that does something on a special moment, like a tragedy happened. I mean, you saw what happened with was it the guy at Auburn? His mom passed away of cancer and hit the homer, right? You see a lot of those moments in baseball, and you have, if you watch the Red Sox deal on Netflix, and the outfielder, Cora says, "Hey, I'm going to pinch hit for you. Let me tell you why." It was from Tyler O'Neill. Like, he was a guy who's one of the best players on their team. His grandmother's not doing well. It's maybe, she may not be able to,
might be the last game she gets to watch.
And he goes and he gets the go-ahead homer or base hit, right? And so, like, I think that to me is like one of the most magical parts of baseball is, the romantic part of it, of like rising up and moments. And it's just kind of, sometimes the baseball guys just reward these players for these situations, and I think that's pretty cool.
And I love, I talk about like the rise and the fall. Like when you're on defense and you're pitching with the lead, so you're trying to get outs, right? Like crowds kind of get up and go crazy in postseason ball when like you're the home team and you're pitching in those situations. They end innings, they end up get outs. But how crazy is it when it's pretty quiet and it's tense because you're not the leading team, and maybe let's say it's a 2-0 count, or maybe it's not even a 2-0 count, maybe it's a 0-1 count, and it's decently quiet in the stadium, but it's a close, tense game, and all of a sudden you get that big hit, that big double, or the big homer that off the bat everybody knows it. To go from like silence to that is like, yo, like you don't get that on third down in Tiger Stadium. Why? Because third down's already loud. It just goes a different level when it doesn't get converted. It's already loud. Right. To be able to get from like silence to that's you don't get that. That's playoff baseball. You don't get that anywhere else.
Yeah, like the fry pop was crazy. Like when you
100%.
The way that cat was playing center field, you felt like nothing would fall, and then you hit Ethan Wright just puts one through the wall. Like even how hard it was hit, you were still like, Jesus Christ, I need to see this thing down at some point. And then the whole thing just kind of exhales, which is a huge just pop, and it's like, oh my God, we're here. This is postseason ball.
Yeah, and it's just, you have the like, hold on, sorry, I was putting my curtain call in there.
Yeah, love it.
I think like you said, you're talking about the pop. Like I think that is, Jay talked about the crowd and how like it really helped the team. Like baseball, I think more than anywhere else. Like you can feel like whenever it's tense and you can feel like the crowd like not into it, like you feel that.
Yeah, ooh.
Right? Like, oh boy. And
We're
like
losing
sometimes if the crowd stays into it, it feels like you kind of keep that, you stay up, right? And you don't feel like you're getting you don't feel like you're getting beat. And so it's hard to do. It happens a lot more often in the postseason. It's easier to do it in the postseason because it's not as long of a season. But yeah,
the Jordan Thompson moment, whenever in Omaha, like the crowd like brings you back to it. It's like, dude, we're still here with you. Like, don't worry about it. Same thing. Who was the Phillies shortstop they signed, and he was 1 for 28.
Trey Turner.
And then they just all rallied around Trey Turner, and he had an unbelievable second half of the year.
Or how about the Phillies second baseman? And they're all singing his walkout song, and then he gets to the plate and gets quiet, and the first pitch he hits the homer. Like from that to this to you don't find that anywhere else.
Yeah,
like he just
crazy.
It's fucking awesome.
Awesome. Love baseball. All right, let's get to the Seggies. Mistake of the day.
Mistake of the day.
You?
Yes, me. But, yeah, that's an easy one. Could be. But we had a celebration that was, I guess, taken too far. I didn't know you could do this in high school track. There was obviously she wins the 400 meters, wins the gold medal for whatever that is in California. She and her dad.
The greatest moment of 16
she took a fire extinguisher to the shoes and they stripped her of her gold medal.
Away from her because of the celebration. After winning the 400 meter event at the CIF State Championships with
400 meter fucking sucks too.
Seconds. Her dream of winning the state title went up in flames after celebrating using a fire extinguisher.
When she blew the fire extinguisher, the pumps were gone.
That's it.
Why?
It's 3 minutes long.
Why did they take that from her?
That's what I'm wondering. That's the mistake of the day. It's not the celebration. It's the fact that you can be stripped of something. You already did it. Did it.
Of course, it's in California.
Yeah, California. So mistake of the day aside from me. Also, curtain call to me, but the rare double.
Speaking of curtain calls, do y'all have one? Because if y'all don't, I think I got to show one.
Go ahead with the show, and go ahead.
All right, so we have friend of the show, friend of ours. Friend of Lloyd. Let Lloyd tag along on his plane to Omaha.
Oh, wow.
2 years ago.
Yes.
John Peterson was once on the PGA Tour. Obviously All-American here at LSU. Famous for making a hole-in-one at the U.S. Open. Worked really hard to try to get his amateur status back for a couple reasons. One, so he can play in these U.S. Open qualifiers and try to qualify for the Open as an amateur. And John Peterson goes out there and becomes a U.S. almost qualified outright, but U.S. Open
first alternate.
So that means if somebody drops out,
which can happen,
happens pretty frequently, pretty often, he gets a phone call and
let's go to Oakmont.
He gets to go to Oakmont. He's there. He's going to be there waiting, and he gets to play in Oakmont in the U.S. Open. So crazy ride for him. Obviously, he's living back home in Texas. Beautiful family. owns he's
Garage man.
He calls himself a garage guy.
That's like you would be romantic about baseball. Like golf can do that to you
No
too.
doubt. And
Like,
he had
done.
a wrist injury. He couldn't really get over it for a while, and but to come back and be able to qualify and play the golf that he's playing, that's pretty awesome.
Now he has another decision to make.
Definitely.
What's the decision?
I love that.
If
I love that. I got one curtain call too. That's actually a great one.
Yeah.
My curtain call would go to one Chris Stanfield. Congrats, brother. You got on the board. Proud of you.
Oppo.
Hey, Oppo Taco.
And he did it in the Oppo fashion.
Wow.
Sorry about it.
Yeah, whoops. Let me deposit one over
Hey,
here.
and I will say this: he hit some balls hard this weekend.
Yeah, he does.
Like
yeah, he did.
he almost hit one out to center. Like he was
Yeah,
hitting some
yeah, he
balls
did.
hard.
I was,
Good for you, Stanley.
Yeah, Stanfield on the board was awesome.
Lloyd, you got one, or you want to jump
Oh
on that
no, I
one?
was
with
going to
me?
hop on the JP
Okay.
because I was talking.
What's the other decision?
Well, I mean, he could try to go. He doesn't get to collect any money if he stays as an amateur.
Well, he's gonna stay as an amateur, right?
Right, but I'm saying after that, if he could like.
Oh, if he goes in like
That's what I'm saying.
makes
Now
the
we're
cut.
going to have to do that, and then you can't get your status back again. You can't go back to being an amateur. But the reason I don't
I mean,
know
what if he tops 10? Top 10's
then you're going to play in a lot of tournaments.
That's what I mean.
As an amateur, instead you could be like, I want my status back, and that's a whole.
But if you go top 10, can you just request status at that point, or you have to wait till next year?
That's what I don't know, because it took him like 3 to 4 years to get his amateur status back. He's like, because he had done so much on the PGA Tour.
But if he is and like if he's like top, let's say top 30, top 10's aggressive.
Well,
Let's just say top 30 or top 20.
if he goes top 20, like there's
Let's
a lot
say a
of
top
tour
20 finish in a major.
sponsors call.
Like that's okay.
You qualified for a lot of tournaments on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, you can still own your company.
Yeah, you could just get somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
But he also has said that he's never had more fun playing golf than he has as an amateur. And then once you go pro, he's like, it's a job. Like,
Yeah.
you forget that. Like, I forgot that. And now that I have my, like, playing in these members, like, golf's fun.
Yeah.
And so it's just such a, like, turmoil that you have to live through of, like, do I want to do this again? Or is this, like, what decision do I make? And now he keeps opening up doors for himself.
We'll
As
see.
to, like, shit.
We'll see.
I thought I was done
I
having to worry
texted him.
about
I
this.
texted him today. I said, "Brother, I'm so happy for you." I said, "Kind of giving me motivation to get back in the cage and see if I can't make a little comeback here."
Get a call from the post. He's like,
Yeah.
this is fun.
I mean, shit. Maybe I'll go out there and take some BP and go play indie ball for half a year and see what happens.
Hit 20 pumps, get a
Yeah,
call.
whatever.
Podcasting's fun.
Yeah, I'll do it from the studio, from the hotel rooms. All right, that's all we got for you on this beautiful Wednesday. Glad we got it in.
Yes, sir.
We'll be back live in studio on Friday from
What time?
1 to 2-ish. We'll be on time, I promise. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you can't watch us, but you like listening to us or anywhere you get your pods. Enjoy the beautiful Wednesday night. We'll see you on Friday. We love y'all. Peace.
And small, quick curtain call to Fonz. He set up a Discord for us so we can be more organized on my end.
Thanks.
So shout
Thanks,
out
Fonz.
Fonz.
Appreciate
I don't
that.
know how to do a Discord, but I'm about to find out.
Yeah, needed that. Jay, how we do today?
Yeah!
What happens if you go thumbs down?
Oh.
What happens if you go thumbs down?
Oh, well, look at this. It's a riot.
Oh. I love that. All right. We love y'all. See y'all. Peace.